Hey there, my name is Lexi, and you are tuned into LexChat. This week, let's chat about making the recording experience valuable, both as a recording engineer and as an artist from those different perspectives. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in hearing more about, and you want to know how to create a valuable experience for your client, or you want to create a valuable experience for anybody who works with you, stay tuned.
Baby, I need love and affection. I need real connection. Don't be scared to do it. Put more than a touch into it. More than what I want, you're what I need. Open up, I'm more than what you see. I know that you're man enough. I'm woman enough to keep your image up, babe. I see how girls get down. They make it hard to care. I'll show you how I move. Disrespect, I won't deal. You'll love me like your own.
Alrighty, so you just heard the song Lovers in This War by yours truly, Lexi. Lovers in This War by Lexi from the Love Reset album produced by Maurice Beats. And this album is available on all streaming platforms: Spotify, Tidal, Apple, YouTube, Amazon, pretty much wherever is your favorite. You can find it there. If you would like the premium experience of feeling the music, okay? I got the CDs in my car. But if you would like the premium experience of holding an album in your hand, I do also have hard copies of Love Reset available. You just have to go to my website, LexCATL.com. That's LEXCATL.com. Alrighty. This is actually Peace Up, A-Town Down. Yeah, I hope y'all understand that reference. But anyway, that is where you can find that, and you can get a signed copy. How fun is that? It's a whole experience when you get the actual CD. Alrighty. A couple announcements before we get into the topic. As of today, this might actually be out by then, but I'm not sure. But the next virtual coffee date is the first Sunday of May, May 5th at 3 p.m. right on Instagram on my page LexCATL. That's at LEXCATL. All right. And before we get started in today's chat, I want to thank my patrons, Mr. Flash Scholes and Eldon Cleary. Thank you guys so much for supporting me. If you are listening or watching and you want to become a patron, you can do so by going to patreon.com/LexCATL. That's patreon.com/LEXCATL. All right. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the topic today. The topic is making the experience valuable. So, why this topic? Well, it's something that came up during the coffee date, and it's also a conversation that came up while I was having lunch with the crew from Rich Productions. So, shout out to Rich Productions, Evan, Solo, and John. It was really dope to go out and just talk and get to, catch up with each other. We haven't done that in a very long time, but the conversation came up of basically, there are so many options of studios around Atlanta now. What makes us stand out? And what will make us stand out is the experience that people have when they come to work with us. So our sound is on point. That's great. We're professional. That's great. But what is that personal factor that's going to make it like, so-and-so is not available today? Instead of them just going down a list of studios to go to and just trying to record with anybody, why is it special to come back to me, Lexi? You know what I'm saying? The mayor of Atlanta says, keep going and being great. Love your content. Thank you. I'm trying. It's not easy. It's not easy, but thank you. Thank you very much. So, what is going to set you apart from the rest of the competition? What is that personal touch, that personal factor that's going to make people want to come back to work with you, want to come back to see you, outside of a great sound quality? Because you can get pretty good sound quality from a lot of places, and that's the inspiration for today's LexChat. So let's hop into that. Alrighty. Now I want to approach this from two different perspectives. This is me kind of giving advice to engineers, so on the professional side, and then on the creative side, for the artists. So advice for the engineers, advice for the professionals, and then advice for the creatives, advice for the artists, okay? So starting with the engineer perspective, the professional side, right? The people who work at the studio, how do you make your experience valuable? How do you get people to want to work with you and choose you over other people, other studios, other companies? I got quite a list for y'all. And a lot of these are going to overlap on the artist side as well, but always be punctual. Punctual means being on time and being ready once you are there on time. So it's a great sign of respect to your clients when you show up on time. It lets people know that you respect people's time and that you're serious about wanting to work. It communicates like, hey, I'm just as excited about working and getting this done as you are. So I'm here bright and early. I'm here ready to work with you. That's what that communicates to your client. So always be punctual, be early, really. And this next point coincides with that. Always have the room ready and clean regardless of who came in before you. So when you come in early, when you're punctual, that gives you an opportunity to make sure that the room is clean, make sure that everything is presentable. And what I like to do as well is to check the connections, because sometimes people who came in before you, even though they're not supposed to, they mess with the cables, they mess with the connections, and they plug it into where it's not supposed to be plugged into, and it messes up the next session because it's usually not communicated that some setting or some cable, some plug was changed. So being early gives you the chance to make sure the room is presentable and clean, turn it into a vibe, get it in that mode, and also make sure that all the equipment is working and that you can troubleshoot before the client gets there. Because again, it communicates to the client that you are ready and excited to work with them, and you've taken the time to make sure that they can walk in and walk straight into the booth, essentially, if that's what they want to do. That's what that communicates. Next is always greet your clients with a warm expression. Now, this is something that I actually went through a rough patch when, how long ago was this actually? A few years ago. I was just getting very burnt out with engineering, and I wasn't the most pleasant, I will say. I will say that there was a time where I was very annoyed working with people and I didn't have the best attitude. So when they came in, it was just like, hey, what's up? Let's go straight back to the studio. Let's get to work. It was kind of cold. It wasn't very personable. And, clients, people can pick up on when you're not really feeling it. And unfortunately, it's nothing personal to the music, but if the artist takes it personally and thinks that you don't like them or that you don't want to be there, why should they believe that you want to record them and you want to work and that you're going to have a good attitude about it? So when I was in my little funky era, it wasn't fun for me to work with them. And I'm sure that they didn't get the best experience with me. Like, they went out with like good sound quality, sure, but the experience of recording was kind of tainted because I wasn't in the best, most positive mindset for people. And so, yeah, I'm sure it didn't communicate very well to the people that I was working with. And so greeting your clients warmly when they walk through the door, hey, what's up? Or whatever little greeting that you do that's natural for you. Depending on who the client is, it'll change. But like, sometimes like, hey, how you doing? Good to see you again. Sometimes it's, hey, my boy, what going on with you, my boy? How you been? How you doing? And just having like a personalized greeting like that, knowing your clients, knowing their personality, talking to them and greeting them in that way will set the tone for the rest of the session. So yeah, the next point I have is be vulnerable and be kind. Before I move on to that though, I do want to point out that if you have new clients, a nice warm greeting, keep it professional, of course, but also like introduce yourself. Like, hey, my name is so-and-so and I'm going to be your engineer. What's your name? And that's how the introduction starts. It shows like, hey, this is who I am. I'm interested in who you are. And now we can get to work. So next point leading to that, be vulnerable and kind. Speak to the client with respect, We want to be professional. We want to be respectful. We want to have clear communication. And this is a creative environment. To create our best art, we have to make ourselves vulnerable and open. This is not to say that you have to dump all of your personal business onto your clients, but when questions are asked, be open to answering those questions and give real answers, give real responses. I just did a video on a book review on the book We Need to Talk, sitting in front of me right now. Check that out to improve on your conversation and communication skills. But yeah, it shows that you are actively listening and you're giving this person your attention. And when people feel heard, they feel listened to, it can only stand to make the art be better and the whole recording experience better, right? Next up, I will say, have a little chit chat with your clients before you get the session started. Like I said before, when I was going through my little funky period, I wouldn't even really be interested in trying to talk. I would just be trying to get the session over with. But that's the wrong approach because it comes off standoffish, it comes off rude, it comes off cold, and you want the creative environment to be warm and inviting and a place where people can be vulnerable, because people talk about some real stuff on their songs, and if they're not comfortable opening up to you, they're not going to be comfortable giving their best performance on the track. So it's so important to have a little bit of chit chat. It kind of loosens everybody up. If you were in a bad mood, which this is something that I learned, right? If you're in a bad mood, it's really okay to communicate with your client like, hey, I didn't have the best start to the day today, so I'm sorry if my mood seems a little off. It'll get better as we work, but I just want to let you know this is what's happening in my day. And because you're being open, because you're being vulnerable and honest, it might inspire the client. If y'all are kind of building a friendship too, it would inspire the client to be like, oh man, I understand. Man, here's some advice on da-da-da-da-da. But I feel you though, because man, this morning, a rapper might say something like, man, baby mom was tripping and I was late picking up so-and-so from the daycare. So she going off on me. So man, I'm really just here because I'm trying to get back in the zone and feel better about myself. So I really needed this recording session. And that's a connection that you two can make. Like I've learned, like clients really don't mind if y'all catch up for a little bit and you catch up on what's going on in your life and let people know where you are mentally. It just makes the recording experience so much better. And like I said, it opens up that environment for y'all to be open and honest and vulnerable with each other, all right? And especially like if this is a returning client, you might want to mention something that was said before. Like, oh, hey, I remember last time you said that, the baby moms was upset with you because this and that. Like, how did y'all end up fixing that? Or like, did you take her out after or something like that? It's going to be like, oh, wow, you remember that detail that I told you? It makes people feel important. So that's a part of making the experience more personable and building a rapport with your clients and maybe even like a friendship to some degree with your clients. Just paying attention to what people say, remembering what they say, and reminding them like, hey, I remember you talked about this last time. Did that get resolved? Did that get fixed? Did you get to enjoy, the dinner that you said you were going to get after that session? How did that go? It adds a whole nother layer. Trust me on this, all right? People love when you remember things about them because it makes them feel important, right? Next piece of advice is have a clear mind and good attitude when you come to work. Now, remember I said that I was in my little funky era, and I did not have the best attitude sometimes, but I've learned that through doing a little chit chat, through still saying hey and being respectful and professional, letting the clients know up front if something might be a little off with me so they don't take it personally, then it's a good idea to maybe you need to clear the air before the session by speaking to your client. Or maybe you just need to, I don't know, you might have a ritual that you do to get in the vibe. If you come early, then you can turn out the lights, light a candle. I like to play some smooth jazz or some lo-fi music before clients come in, and that's the vibe that people will usually walk into. And it allows me time to like mentally prepare for the session. So if I'm having a bad day, I don't necessarily want to chat about it with the client, then I can have my little routine going where I get myself in the mood, I get myself in the vibe, And when the client walks in, it's going to be a much more enjoyable experience for both of us because I had that time to prepare and the client comes in like ready to do a song, you know? Next thing I would say is be encouraging and collaborative with the artist to get the best song and the best sound. So in addition to being vulnerable and open and honest with each other, you want to keep the environment positive. Like sometimes the client may have a tough time performing something or delivering something a certain way. Be encouraging, offer advice, be attentive, be in the session with the client. This can be difficult sometimes because there have been some sessions where I didn't necessarily like the music, but the client was so cool. And I'll talk about this in the artist perspective. The client was so cool that it made me want to help them and it made me want to see them succeed. Like, of course I want to make a hit every time I'm in the studio, right? But sometimes the artists don't really communicate well, so that affects, there's a communication barrier there that makes the experience maybe not as great. Other times, it's just I'm so tapped out from the poor quality of the song sometimes, just being honest, that I just don't have it in me, or I may have offered advice and the artist didn't take it, so I just become a button pusher. But trust me, it's so much more fun as an engineer, as the professional staff at the studio, if I can figure out a way to connect to what we are creating and be collaborative in the experience to get the best song that we can. On the flip side, the artist has to be open to that advice and trust that I also want the best interest for this record. So I'll talk about that in the artist section as well, but that's something to think about. Another thing that can make your experience more memorable, more valuable to somebody is take pictures for the clients. Take pictures for the clients, take pictures with the clients, help them to get their content up. It shows, like I said, you're invested. It shows that you want them to be consistent and active and present on social media, which gives outsiders like a certain perception about how much this person is working. I know a guy on Twitter who takes pictures with his clients at the end of every session, and I think that's a cool little like connecting thing to do. And, as your picture gets further and further down the timeline, it's like, man, I ain't seen my picture in a minute. Let me get in the studio and get a new one up there. So I think taking pictures for your clients while they're behind the mic, send it to them. That also shows that you're in the session. So on top of being collaborative, taking pictures, it's just a fun time. You know what I mean? Like when you're having a good time, you want to document the moment. And that's what that is. Take pictures for the client, take selfies with the client, post it, share it, and that's going to lead me to my next point. When the artist releases something, repost it by sharing it to your stories, repost it by sharing it to your timeline. Show that you support, show that you are in tune, show that you care that you just worked with this person and your name is essentially attached to this. When you show that you care, people take notice of that, even if it's a quick share on the story, right? But people take notice of that. They feel appreciated, they feel seen, they feel heard, and it makes your clients more likely to come back to work with you because there's a level of support there, alrighty? And all of these things are things that I'm either doing or that I can improve upon for myself. So it's a work in progress for everyone, right? Now I want to switch gears and talk about the artist perspective. I'm in here talking, y'all. I am talking. So, all right, on the artist side, right? A lot of what I talked about on the professional side, it's going to coincide with and overlap with the artist side, all right? So as an artist, what can I do so that people want to work with me? What can I do so that people seek me out for features or they seek me out for photography, for video shoots, for modeling? As the creative, what can I do so that people want to come work with me? So just like with the professional side, always be punctual. It communicates to the people at the studio that I take my craft seriously and that I respect other people's time as well. So same thing on the professional side. I respect your time and I'm taking this seriously. As an artist, it communicates the same thing. There's a mutual respect because I'm here on time. I might be a little early, but hey, I'm ready to do this. I showed up on time and ready. That's what that communicates, all right? Next up is know what you're working on for the session. Or if you're not really sure, it's okay to communicate if we're just working on vibes here. So I used to get really frustrated when an artist would come in and the other artists would get frustrated too, right? They would come in and not really have a sense of what they want to do for the session. And so like, let's say we would get rappers who come in and they book the minimum 2 hours and they don't know what they're doing. So we spend the first 20 minutes looking for a beat on YouTube because they didn't square that away before they came. And now they're upset because they have less time to make the song a reality. Well, if they would have came prepared, then they wouldn't feel like they wasted time, and they wouldn't feel like now there's like a pressure to finish with a certain time restraint, because they would have been prepared and they would have just been able to walk in essentially ready to work. When you come to your session prepared, it communicates to the engineer, I'm ready, I take this seriously, I'm a professional, and I know what direction I want my music to go. I know the tone that I want to set for this session. It communicates that to the engineer, okay? Next up, speak to the engineer with respect. I've had a lot of rappers come through who the way they talk in their music is the way that they talk in real life. And to be very transparent, the music is not that great, so you can assume that the communication is not that great. If you're not putting clear thought into your songs, then you probably don't think clearly in regular life. So speak to the engineer with respect. I don't like it when the artist is kind of making me feel like I don't matter, even though without me, this whole process would not be possible. You're coming to pay for a service because you can't do it yourself, right? So speak to that person respectfully. And like I said in the engineer section, this is a collaborative effort. So y'all need to figure out what is each other's workflow. You need to figure out how do we communicate, and is it an effective communication that's getting us both the result that we want. It's communicating what I want from the engineer, and it's also letting the engineer know my strengths, my weaknesses, my boundaries, whatever, all that good stuff. But it is a collaborative effort. If you don't speak to the engineer properly, then you can throw off the engineer's vibe, and it can make the engineer not care about your project really quickly if you are terrible to work with. So speak to people with respect. They will speak back to you with respect, and it just makes the environment so much more fun. And when the environment is fun and comfortable, we create hits and great things are made in the studio, right? Next up, be as consistent as possible. Again, this is going to communicate consistency and professionalism. It's going to communicate that you are serious about what you do and that you respect what the side that the engineer does, right? Be as consistent as possible. Again, be open and vulnerable, because when it's an open, vulnerable environment, it leaves more space for the song to be great. It leaves more space to put vulnerability on the track. And it leaves you more comfortable to give a stellar performance. If you're stressed, if you're closed off and you're kind of cold, then it actually does translate into the music as well. Or you don't connect to the music as well because you didn't feel your most comfortable when you were creating it. So keep that in mind. Be professional. Don't be too combative on the pricing. You don't need to argue with the engineer about pricing. A lot of prices just is what it is. But a lot of times, as an engineer, right, if I like somebody and I see that they're trying and they're being consistent, I might throw a little alley-oop and I might give you a little discount on some of the services because I'm understanding and I like you as an artist and I believe in you as an artist. Even if maybe I wasn't convinced with your music at first, if you show me consistency and you show me that you really want this, I'm with you on the prices a little bit, So being professional and not being combative on the pricing, it makes you an agreeable person, and being nice makes people want to do things for you. Being nice makes people want to help you. So keep that in mind. And then what you can do to have people wanting to work with you is to be improving on your craft all the time. Put overtime in. Always be improving on your craft. There's nothing worse as an engineer. There is nothing worse than continuing to work with somebody who never gets better. Okay, there's a multitude of reasons why they might not get better, but usually consistency is the problem. And there's like an arrogance that happens. When you think you know everything, there's no room for you to learn, so there's no way for you to improve. So working with an artist who thinks that they know everything, they already think they're the ish, it's not enjoyable to work with that person because there's no perception of, room to grow. And yeah, the best thing that you can do, people are watching, people see your progress, and I'm a testimony of this too. I asked designers to help me with a video shoot. I didn't necessarily have the money to spend a bunch of money on like clothes and stuff. So I decided, let me reach out to my network. And that network included designers. Nicole Monet is an example. She gave me this suit to wear for music videos and for award shows, for premieres, whatever I needed. And I wore this to a premiere. So the reason why is because I've walked in shows with them and I've had a good attitude at these fashion shows. I've been respectful of their clothing. I've made sure that I return things. I've made sure that I care for the items that are in my possession because this is an extension of who I am. I show that I care about their product, and in extension, I care about them, because if this represents them, then I'm showing that I care about them. And so, getting good at your craft over time, people are watching, people see the improvement, and people see the consistency. They're more willing to hop on the bandwagon because they see that you're going somewhere. So you naturally improving on your craft is going to make people want to work with you because you're getting motion, or you're staying consistent. You keep going. You're always out somewhere. People look at my Instagram and they think that I'm always doing stuff, which is a great perception to have. And it makes people like designers want to give me clothes and want to collaborate on projects in the future because this girl is getting out there. If she's out there and I can put her in my clothes, then I can get my clothing brand out there. And it's a collaborative effort. So those are all of the pieces of advice I have for how to make the experience working with you to be an enjoyable one. If it's enjoyable and it's personable and it's filled with respect and vulnerability, then that is what's going to make people want to work with you from a professional side and from the creative side. So yeah, build that connection with your people and build that connection with your team. And that is how people will most likely want to choose you over just going to random studio, over just booking a random person. Something about you and how you work and your attitude, it's appealing and people want to keep working with that. And yeah, so that's how you can create valuable experiences. I hope that y'all learned something. I hope that this was very helpful for you. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, leave comments and thoughts in the reviews in the comment section down below. I would really appreciate some interaction on what you think about this topic. But yeah, shout out again to my patrons, Mr. Flash Scholes and Eldon Cleary. Thank you guys so much for supporting me. Remember that the next coffee date, as long as this doesn't, as long as it comes out before, I don't know. But the virtual coffee date, first Sunday of the month, the next one as of today, Sunday, May 5th at 3 p.m. on Instagram at LexCATL. I hope to see you there. I hope that these chats are helpful for you. And yeah, until next time, my name is Lexi. Peace.
I've had enough of games and playing now. I'll call it